Last time! Reviewing an album is definitely a challenge, but what about reviewing an album that's 30 to 35 years old, runs at least 29 minutes long but no more than 34, and the review must somehow contain the color red and a monkey? Have you ever thought to yourself, gee, MistareFusion is so smart and handsome and his videos are so well made and insightful, but I wish that I was the one calling the shots? Well, now you can. This time! MistareFusion. For the video, I would like you to do a review of an Australian film. It must contain 5 seconds of footage from my channel of me. You must also not try in any way to do an Aussie accent, and include the Australian flag. This is an idea I got from you in the Who Reviews the Reviewers review. Magpie2541. So here I am, finally getting my rear in gear to fulfill my obligation in the contest I announced this past spring, starting with Magpie2541's requested video. And, as you noticed, Magpie, an Aussie himself...
And it's only about two and a half hour drive from Sydney. 3 hours by train, unfortunately. Obviously.
And asked me to review an Australian film. Now, I'm a self-absorbed American, so my knowledge of your culture is limited to that song-by-minute work. I suppose I could have just copped out and reviewed the film Australia, but I decided to dig deeper than that. To dig into the seedy underbowels belly of your popular culture and combine it with my love for silent films. To that end, I decided to review The Kid Stakes, a 1927 silent film that is decidedly Australian, yet doesn't contain a single Australian accent in it. Not only that, but it's a comic adaptation of the long-running newspaper strip Fatty Finn, which ran from 1923 to 1977. About your average kid getting into average kid hijinks, like in Peanuts or Dennis the Menace. Or, for my viewers on the other side of the Atlantic, Dennis the Menace. Fatty gets his name because he's, well, fat. But apparently he's fat like Garfield's fat. That is, he was actually obese at one point in time before he evolved into someone who's fat in name only. In Fatty's case, this resulted in a complete shift of the tone and plot, as actual Fat Fatty was constantly derided by his own supporting cast, while Skinny Fatty was a respected leader. Make of that what you will. But this is about the movie version, and whether or not it holds up to the kinds of standards of comic adaptations we've come to expect. Like Batman and Robin, or the 1970s Captain America where he drives around in a van. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't know enough about this to analyze it on that level, so let's just see how it holds up as a film. Now, first off, I don't know what Kid Stakes refers to. Obviously it's spelled wrong to be about cannibalism. I suppose I can only hope that prepubescent vampirism is a recurring plotline. It starts out with the whimsical opening of the cartoonist, Sid Nichols, drawing Fatty Finn and having him come to life. Upon doing so, Fatty asks his creator what kind of adventures he's getting into today, which really sets the stage for what should be the tone of this film. Not only are we following a protagonist who's a gruesome perversion of the laws of God and nature, but everything we're about to see is already pre-plotted fiction in a world of fiction. I'm not sure if that's creepily meta or just kinda sad. However, this scene is never referenced again, so unfortunately we don't get a thorough examination of the rights or sentience of a demon-possessed ink boy as he drives wooden stakes through the hearts of children. Incidentally, the intertitles inform us that he's called Fatty because he's not fat. In trying to come up with a joke for this, I suddenly remembered that I'm called Lance when it's not actually my name at all, so I guess I really can't make fun of the lack of logic in this retcon. At any rate, the story gets going with an expository intertitle regaling us with the fact that we live in an age of speed in which we make love and die faster. And this is about children. But before I can wonder if this is the kind of movie that could get me arrested just for watching it, it reveals that this is really about racing cars. Oh no, wait, it's not. That's just a dream Fatty's having. And get used to that. Not the dream sequence part, but having no idea what the plot's supposed to be part. So, Fatty decides that he wants to win a race like the one in his dream, but since he can't really make love, die, or drive cars, he has to settle for racing goats. And that involves going to his arch-nemesis Bruiser Murphy and registering his goat, Hector, complete with a cute kid-like contract assuring his pedigree, which is non-existent. Bruiser, incidentally, has his champion goat, Stonker, because apparently his naming scheme just can't be evil enough. If self-importance grew like a pimple, Bruiser will be wearing a carbuncle. So evil that we have to have a gross, bizarre description of his negative attributes. And here's a problem. So yeah, silent movies have that slight handicap and a lack of sound. And yes, that is a slight handicap, because text can be used as a perfect substitute for spoken dialogue, as anyone who's played a role-playing game older than 10 years old can attest. The problem with intertitles is that they require you to cut away from the action to see them, so dialogue is used sparingly. More so than spoken films, and this is part of the fun if you enjoy them, is that silent films are very much a visual medium. A lot of spoken dialogue doesn't get intertitles because it's done in such a way that you can tell what they're saying even if you don't understand the exact wording. If show don't tell was an axiom that existed then, it might have come about due to necessity rather than simply good storytelling. But hey, here's our cast, and every single one of them gets an intertitle telling all about them and even crediting the actor. And that's all we'll ever learn about most of them. Gee, just imagine if movies today did this. Bruce Wayne. His parents were killed. He studied martial arts under the League of Shadows and plans to become Batman. Well there. I just saved you from having to watch the first hour of Batman Begins. Isn't the movie much better this way? Oh yeah, I very much like this one for the character CZ, who gets his name because for him, life's not hard, it's easy! That makes more sense than fatty at any rate. To get back to the story, Hector is apparently such a threat to Stonker that Bruiser has to enlist a traitor to let Hector loose before the races begin. And that's the only villainous thing Bruiser ever does. Hope you enjoyed that brief antagonistic moment. Hey, but now I understand the title, the kid stakes. It's not kids as in children, it's kids as in goats. They are placing stakes on goats in a race. So now I understand what's going on. Hector's gonna get kidnapped and the kids are gonna have to hurry to find him before the races begin. So now they go to play cricket. You know, Australian kids play cricket because they don't have the American ingenuity to invent or play baseball. And I bet you suppose that while they're distracted with the game, Hector's going to be kidnapped. Well, that's what you get for supposing. Literally, as soon as I figure out the plot for this movie, the movie decides to punish me by putting on the brakes and suddenly becoming something entirely different. So they play cricket for a while. And then the constable gets involved and Fatty hits the ball and smashes a window and oh my god, kill it with fire, it's a succubus! Fata the fin, hit at the ball, smash it to win! Oh, wait, no, he's just an Italian back before the world at large realized they weren't just ridiculous comedic stereotypes.
It's me, Mario!
Okay, I guess we still haven't learned. So there's a big chase scene, including the constable, and CZ stuck to the law like a spare tire. In the rear. Oh, please tell me that CZ and the constable aren't the making love faster component that the introduction referred to. So Fatty's friend Kitty dresses him up like a girl, but his cover is blown when the dress falls off. The succubus tells Fatty's parents, who were just so proud their son's able to hit that well, but agree to pay for the window anyway. So glad we had this random unrelated subplot in here. The traitor finally releases Hector, and we get involved in the standard goat antics. Well, there's only one standard goat antic. Eating, and we get plenty of that. Eating shirts, eating posters, eating flowers. And we get a little philosophical pondering. But eventually he wanders into the next phase of the plot, two young lovers out in the rich part of town. The girl's the daughter of a rich man, and the boy is hopelessly beneath her station. But they love each other anyway and plan to run away. Unfortunately, the father spots Hector eating his prized flowers and orders the gardener to lock the goat in the garage so he can destroy it. And apparently the gardener is literally retarded as he spots the young lover, mistakes him for the goat, and locks him in the garage. How do you even... what? Even for a kid's movie this doesn't make any sense. Even if I'm to give this movie the benefit of the doubt and assume that goat was some kind of slang back then for man climbing up my trellis, well that makes it even worse, because if he's not mentally handicapped, that makes him knowingly complicit with murder. In a kid's movie! I've never seen a kid's movie with so many unintended dark themes! But I do have to admit the representation of Hector's buffet as a menu is pretty funny. Now that's how you get information across in a silent film. But if you thought that just because we've seen some goat antics and the fact that a man's life is at risk due to either a mentally handicapped or extremely nearsighted gardener, that the plot's gonna start moving along at a brisk pace, boy are you gonna be disappointed. Because now we're introduced to Algie Snopes, a rich, nerdy kid in a Kermit the Frog collar who, according to his officially mandated bio, has a hot and restless heart under that velvet jacket, and he just longs to join in on the other kids riding each other. Our extremely proactive hero, who has learned that his goat is missing, doesn't join in on the kids' sex, but instead just mopes. But don't worry, Fatty, the film assures us that Algie's going to be our savior, so meeting him must be an extremely important part of the plot. But before we learn what that oh-so-important function is, this story is in dire need of causing the audience to hate the protagonists. I mean, don't get me wrong, kids can be absolutely terrible excuses for human beings, which is why I try to avoid them as much as humanly possible. So, you know, a certain amount of ostracizing of a weird kid is to be expected. Yeah, maybe a few insults spurred on by the laughing of friends. Or if you're a kid in Australia in the 1920s, some of the most mean-spirited vitriol oozing out of these children's mouths, delivered with such malice that it seems like they're literally offended and insulted that this kid would dare to exist. Yeah, what a smug little jerk. He deserves to be called a sissy and pushed over and have his hat destroyed. Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen. Good grief, I don't even know if I'd be able to blame Algie if a tower and a sniper rifle was in his future. But instead of that, he goes for the more direct revenge and just starts wailing on Fatty. At which point, popular opinion in the tribal society suddenly swings in Algie's favor, and Kitty actually chastises Fatty for getting in a fight with him. The rest of the kids decide Algie can join the gang, but Algie decides to just let them piss themselves for a bit over his rage strength, and then everybody gets along. And then you'd think we could get back to the plot, but no, Fatty has to make us hate him just a little bit more before that. He has to make up with Kitty, so he pulls some flowers out of the trash and delivers this gem of an apology. I wouldn't have hit him if I'd known he could fight. Our hero. Granted, Kitty can't exactly be placed in a much higher position on the old scale of morality. Decent boys don't fight. No, not at all! They just hurl suicide-inducing insults at them. That's perfectly acceptable, but punching them, that's just mean. But the flowers win her over, and now you'd think we could actually get back to the plot, but no. The other kids make fun of Fatty for giving flowers to a girl. There's a chase scene with the constable, and seriously, what is this movie's problem? What does any of this have to do with goat racing? Or goat finding, for that matter? This movie is called The Kid Stakes, not Constable Cricket, not Cross-Dressing Child, not Man Climbs a Trellis, not Crazy Gardener, not Richie Rich, and not Gender Dynamics of 6-year-olds. This movie is only a little over an hour long. We are well past the halfway point, and so far, all that's happened in the main plot is the goat got loose, and the goat ate stuff. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Fatty forgot about the goat and if there was ever a race to begin with, if not for the fact that some day laborers happened to spot it in the paper and decided to tell them about it. Good grief! The adults and the press care more about this stuff than the kids who are actually supposed to be competing in it. That finally lights a fire under their butts, and that means the plot can finally resume. Oh, and remember how Algie was said to be their savior, how his presence was being built up as being so important, and how it required this huge detour of bullying and fighting and flowers and whatnot to establish him? Well, he lives in the same part of town as a socialite whose flowers Hector had been eating. He knows where the guy lives. And he tells the other kids. That's it. He doesn't even do any leading. He doesn't have any information about the terrain. He doesn't get a moment where he saves the day. He just points over there, and that's his entire justification for being in this movie. After that, he just falls in line and he doesn't contribute anything else ever again. And given that this guy was apparently famous enough that a goat eating his flowers is enough to make headline news, I don't think they would have even needed Algie to figure out where he lives, which makes that whole sequence totally pointless. But at least things are finally moving. And with the stakes so high, the kids, of course, get started right away. Wait, no. First they have to draw out a charter and sign it in blood that they'll keep their mission a secret. And all of them have to sign it. Oh wait, except for the girl, because that would just be too much for her dainty self, so Fatty signs her name in his own blood. And yes, I know that the whole signing in blood is a kid ritual, but I admit while I always heard about it a lot, I and no one else I know ever actually did it. It's just a little bit creepy seeing them actually cut each other and squeeze the blood out and then seeing a close-up of their names scrawled out. Maybe I'm just too namby-pamby for the 20s. Or Australian. Maybe all that Vegemite makes you tough. So they march off and sneak past the constable. I guess Australia back then possessed a very serious caste system where the riffraff wasn't allowed into the good part of town. Australia, stay on your side of the fence! So the kids find the guy's house and open the garage, and lo and behold, the goat is actually a man. Funny how the gardener couldn't figure that out. But proving how much of a hurry they're in and how high the danger is of being caught, the kids figure they'll just let the lovers retrieve the goat while they go strip down and play in the Bonzer swimming pool they found on the way in. Glad to see their priorities continue to be in the right place. But before you can shout, "All the kids are naked!" the gardener spots them. Oh, criminy, now there's a whole bunch of goats trying to steal our water. Better round them up and lock them in the garage so the master can shoot them. In the end, the gardener is foiled, the constable trips, and we get the privilege of seeing Cece's spare tire. Yeesh. But now we have our goat, and now we just need to hurry to the races. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I forgot. This is the kids' stakes, where no one's ever in a hurry for anything. So first, we have to induct the lovers into the gang by shooting apples above their heads. And then, they have the nerve to point at the clock, like we're actually going to buy at this point that a ticking clock means anything to these people. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. It's a good thing we inducted these people into the gang, because Horatio has an airplane, and he can fly Hector to the track to get him registered in the nick of time. Well, bless my soul, finally an established plot point means something, and isn't just there to waste time. Do I really need to say we're never going to see this guy again? We're never going to see this guy again! Despite this, the kids manage to hitchhike, and that finally gets them to the track on time. And then we learn through an intertitle that Hector won the 6th heat. So not only did this movie spin its wheels for 2/3 of its runtime, doing so prevented us from seeing goat races! In a movie about goat races! Well, maybe if we hadn't spent all our budget on that pointless airplane sequence, we might have gotten to see more than one race! So the final start. Hector is racing against Stonker. Yeah, remember him? And Bruiser? Our antagonists? We haven't seen in an hour? Yeah, neither do I. But we do get some fun goat names like Number 12, Dirty Dick. Good grief, there's just something wrong with this movie on a fundamental level. So, and I never thought I'd have to say this, Pooh, Windbag, and Stonker are fighting it out. But Hector ultimately wins fairly easily, really. Our almost non-existent villain gets his comeuppance when his girl leaves him for not being a winner, and I guess we really care because of all the evil, terrible things he presumably did off-screen somewhere while we were watching our hero bully people for being different than him. Kitty leans in to give Fatty a kiss, but oh no, he's not gonna take that because he's a boy and girls are icky! Ha 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 ha! The end. Wow. Just... wow! I honestly, I did not pick this with the intent of just railing on it like I just did. I had never seen this before, I'd never heard of it before. I just wanted to review a silent film. I had no knowledge of this. I can't even say it's bad. It's rather fun, really. I mean, when they're not doing terrible things to algae that make me hate them. There's almost a certain charm to its complete lack of focus. In a way, it feels like being a kid, where the adventure changes every few minutes and everything has a sense of importance and ritual to it. But nothing's really developed enough for me to care, and it just keeps jumping back and forth, teasing me that their actual plot might pay off at some point. I get whiplash trying to figure out what the plot's going to be about. Really, there are about 5 different movies in here, but not a single one is fleshed out. So thank you, Magpie2541, for watching, and thanks for being so patient. Hope you had a good time. Next time, we'll be getting back to Batman, and after that, well, Random Dandom Vids has his requested video coming up, so let's see what we have here. Not going to worry about that now. We'll worry about that later. And let's see. Australian film, check. 5 seconds of footage from Magpie's channel, check. Australian flag, check. So all I got to do is not attempt an Australian accent before this video ends, and I will be perfect.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder. Can't you hear the thunder? Take cover.
Crikey, throw a shrimp on the barbie and a dingo eat your baby!